What's up, everybody? My name is Shannon, and I am still waiting for my Satyr, and today we are going to be talking about the Rise of Skywalker novelization by Rae Carson. Okay, so this video is going to be a doozy. I have no idea how long it's going to be. I don't know how this video is going to go, so just come along this magical journey with me. This isn't going to be necessarily like a spoiler-free review, but I am going to be reviewing this book and trying to keep my salt for the movie to as much as a minimum as possible. So, if you didn't know, I'm not a huge fan of The Rise of Skywalker. I did not like it at all, and in fact, reading this book actually brought up a lot of bad memories from that. I was in a very depressive state after I saw that movie, and this really did kind of put me back there. So, right off the bat, I'm going to tell you, I do not recommend reading this book. If you think that it's going to fix anything in Tross, if you think that it's going to help in any kind of way, it doesn't. There are some good quotes that you can pull out of here. I do think Rae Carson did her best. But a lot of those good scenes have already been leaked. So what I would recommend is go seek those leaks out, because those quotes are very nice. But as a whole, if you really struggled after Tross, do not read this book because it's not going to help and it doesn't fix anything. Like I said, I do think that Rae Carson did the best job that she could. She was given an absolutely impossible task for this movie. This movie was a train wreck from start to finish. There's so much going on. You can tell that things had been changed, that things are moving around, the characters don't necessarily feel super organic. So giving this to Rae Carson was just, I really feel for her. And even like if you look at the front, and this is completely different from The Last Jedi, because with The Last Jedi it says, like based on characters, Lucasfilm, Rian Johnson, like that's all it says. Well, with The Rise of Skywalker, we have the logo here, and then it lists all of these people that worked on it. So it's based on characters created by George Lucas, screenplay by Chris Terrio and J.J. Abrams, based on a story by Derek Connolly and Colin Trevorrow, and Chris Terrio and J.J. Abrams, Rae Carson. Oh my god, that is a lot of people with their hands in the fire. Like there's so much room for things to go wrong there, and that is why Star Wars has a story group, and I have read a lot of the new canon novels. I have a whole playlist that I encourage you to go and check out, so I know what I'm talking about when I say that this book does not feel like it fits with the canon, and it doesn't feel like the story group was consulted. It feels like this story was just a train wreck from start to finish, and that Rae Carson did her absolute best to try to inject some life back into it. But what it comes down to is that everybody is very out of character. That's the problem here. And this is why it doesn't feel very helpful for me to read this book. And that's also why it doesn't feel like this book could possibly be fixing anything, because the characters are very, very out of character. So let's kind of try and take this in chunks, shall we? So I said that everybody feels very out of character, and what I really mean by that is that Rey, Leia, and Kylo Ren feel especially out of character. I would say that those are the main characters here. I know that with The Rise of Skywalker, they were really trying to sell you on this idea of, Rey, Finn, and Poe being a trio, but they just aren't. And even in the book, they really don't feel like they are. They don't interact in a way that you would say like makes them friends. And in fact, the text goes out of its way multiple times to remind you that these three are like best friends and friendship and blah, 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 save the day. Like it goes out of its way to tell you these things. And it feels off, and that's because Rey is very out of character. She's not the Rey that we see in The Force Awakens. She's not the Rey that we see in The Last Jedi. She is somebody who is pure goodness and who feels like she doesn't deserve this legacy. So when she, gets the mantle of being a Palpatine, like it throws her for a loop and blah, 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 and it just doesn't fit. A big part of that is because that was not Rey's story. Rey's story was about her being a nobody and finding her place in this story. And what they did was they gave her Kylo Ren's story. They made her a legacy child. They made her, the grandchild of somebody very, very important. Somebody who is trying to reconcile with their darkness. Like this is already happening. It's already happening with Ben Solo. So it feels like it just doesn't fit, and it feels like somebody just took these characters and just decided to do whatever they wanted with them instead of following and completing out their story arcs. So with Rey, anytime she's in the book, it feels like you almost get there with her, which I don't know if that is from Ray Carson or if it's from something else, but sometimes you'll almost get there. Like towards the end, especially when Ben Solo has been redeemed and she's with him, it almost gets there, but then it just goes away again. A big part of that is also because they really split the baby here. If you don't know what that reference means, it just means that they tried to give everybody what they wanted, and you really see that with Kylo Ren. Kylo Ren at the beginning of this book is so mad dog, evil, out of his mind, bad guy who only wants power and blah blah blah, and it just so doesn't fit with the Kylo that you see in The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. But there were a lot of people who wanted Kylo to be that way. There was a huge subset of the fandom that wanted him to be that way. He just never has been. And I've read his comics, I've read, anything that he's been in, he's just never been that way. Even if you look at interviews from Adam Driver, he's never played it that way. So the fact that he's written that way in the book really feels like they're trying to appease those fans who wanted him to be that bad guy. When he is turned and when he is redeemed, he does start to feel more like himself, at least in my opinion, but it is so jarringly different from the Kylo Ren that we see at the beginning of the book. Now that can just be because he's redeemed, he's Ben Solo now, he's not Kylo Ren, but a big part of his journey was supposed to be reconciling with that darkness, and they kind of remove that from Rey as well. They gave Rey this dark side backstory too, but then she shuns it and, takes on the Skywalker name and becomes super light, whereas Ben was too far gone, I guess, and that's why he has to die. It just feels like they're really trying to please everybody, and in doing so, they please no one, because one thing that I can't stand, yes, I wanted him to be redeemed, I wanted him to be good in the end, but even if that's not the way that they were going to go, the thing that I can't stand is when you can't commit to an idea. That's the thing that bothers me so much with books, is when they try to do too many things at once and then they can't commit, so that they half-ass it. If this is the story that you want to tell this story. That's what is super frustrating here. And it was triggering to me to see him written this way, but then it was just make me frustrated that they still just wouldn't even go for it, because they knew that there were also fans who wanted something else. This book is trying to please too many people. And then with Leia, it's kind of the same thing. Leia does not feel like the character that you read about in Leia, Princess of Alderaan, or in Bloodline, or even in Aftermath and Last Shot. She feels like this larger-than-life, mythic character. She's like everybody's mom, and it's her responsibility in this book to give everybody a legacy. There's a paragraph in here where it talks about that she's giving the Skywalker legacy to Rey, the Organa legacy to Poe, and the Solo legacy to Ben, and only one of those is actually her legacy to give, and Poe Dameron is an adult with his own parents. She doesn't need to be everybody's mom. You don't need to break Leia up into a million parts to give to everybody. That is not how you celebrate Leia. She's very much a vessel for Luke, and a vessel for, pandering to nostalgia, because she is in touch with Luke. She's suddenly this Jedi master and trainer. She didn't need any of this added to her story. I don't know why we had this grand idea that Leia needed to be a Jedi to have some sort of master plan. It just doesn't work. And you do get a lot more Leia in this book, and I feel like that was to make up for the fact that she's absent from the movie. She is absent from the movie because Carrie Fisher is dead, so they put her more in the book, but all of her passages feel so out of character. They don't feel like Leia, and it just baffles me, especially when you go back and you think about, Rian Johnson kind of worked with Claudia Gray and the story group when they were writing Bloodline for Leia. He had a scene specifically put into that book so that he could continue on with continuity. And then to see this and to just see how it's blatantly regarding Bloodline especially, it's very frustrating and it's very annoying and it's just very, very hard to get through. This isn't the Leia that we know. This isn't the Rey that we know. This isn't the Ben that we know. It feels like a Legends book. It feels like there were just these people who took these characters and gave them to somebody and they said, here are all of our ideas, write this impossible book, and if people don't like it, we'll blame it on you because you're a female author. That is my own personal anger coming in through there, but I do kind of feel like they're gonna use Rae Carson as a scapegoat here, which is why I'm trying to not put the blame on her, although I also don't think she did the best that she could. It's not like she could have rewritten everything. It's not like she could have completely changed the course of the story. So I don't really know what hope we could have been expecting, but I do wish we could have gotten something to hold on to. I would say the best thing in this book is the stuff at the end about the dyad. It is very nice to read. It's very nice to see a lot of these quotes. It does kind of make the gut punch of Ben dying even worse, knowing that, you know, like they had finally come together, they felt like they were at home, all of this. But I do think we can get a little bit of fuel for the Ben Solo is alive in the world between worlds train going through here. Not a whole lot, but it's enough for me, so that's totally fine. Overall, I think this book is just as bad as the movie. I mean, what were you expecting? Like, the movie was a garbage fire, and I honestly feel like a lot of the parts in this book just threw some gasoline on it. It's like they're trying to make it better, so they keep like tacking all these things on, but all it's doing is making it worse and taking away from everything. I want to see more from these characters. I don't want this to be the end of Rey's story. I don't want this to be the end of Ben's story. Like I said, I want nothing more than for Rey to go into the world between worlds and find Ben Solo. Go ahead, come at me in the comments. I don't care. But I hope that they give it some time to breathe. This book feels very reactionary. It feels very like, oh no, we made a lot of issues with the movie, we didn't fix them, let's try to fix them in the book. Like, this book got delayed, you know? So it feels very reactionary, and I don't want to see that anymore. I want them to take some steps back. I want them to look at these characters and try to figure out what the hell they were trying to say, because so far the sequel trilogy, there was no message behind it. All the Skywalkers are dead, and now we have a Palpatine who's pretending to be a Skywalker. I really don't know what's going to happen next. I'm excited for the High Republic just because it is going to be so far removed. I'm hoping that we might see some steps in the right direction when we get there. I am happy to be done with this book. We are going to be talking about it on Lipstick and Lightsabers. If you are subscribed to this channel, you'll see the announcement when that comes out. So we'll go a little bit more in depth into any of that. My recommendation, I do not recommend reading this book. It doesn't add anything to the film. It didn't help me. If you liked the film, you probably will like this book. I'm sorry if I just shat all over it, but to me, it just makes an impossible situation worse. I feel really bad for Rae Carson because I did really like her Most Wanted book, which was about Kira. It was a solo tie-in. I thought it was great. I've read one of her other books. I do think she's a good author, but this book was just, it's not it. It's not it. So I don't recommend reading it. And more than anything, what this book did for me is it solidified the fact that I'm not going to buy the Rise of Skywalker movie. I'm not going to watch this movie again. Maybe when it's on Disney Plus, I'll give it a shot. Like, when I'm gonna need like help if I watch that movie again. So I'm not giving this book a rating. I wanted to give it a 1. I ended up giving it a 2 just because I think, again, Rae Carson did her best. I want to give it an F, but it probably deserves a little bit higher than that. I think I'm a little bit biased. I think I'm a little bit compromised, so I'm not gonna give this book a rating. I'm just gonna say, don't recommend it. If you really want to know more about it, come back when we talk about it on Lipstick and Lightsabers. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, be sure to hit that like button down below, and don't forget to subscribe so you can talk books with me every week. That is everything I got for today, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!